Hi, we're live with Youth Baseball Talk. I'm Mike here with my co host Matt. We're going to talk about all things travel ball today. We're going to dive into the process of picking a team, the do's and don'ts, the things you should avoid. And we're going to go live right now. If you have questions, let's see them. Please give us a share, a like, and let's get this rolling.
What's up? What's up, everybody? Been out for a couple of weeks, so it's good back to see you.
Yeah,
Looks like
for
you lost
sure.
a little bit more weight.
I'm trying.
I found a little bit more. I need to get out whatever you're on. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, you had a kid that played select ball. I know I had my son play select ball since he was 9. He's in college now, so I feel like between the two of us, we've kind of seen a little bit of everything, huh?
Yeah, and I'm starting the new process where it's 15U now, so there's no classifications anymore, no AAA. It's just 15-year-old kids playing baseball. Some are better than others, and some are worse.
Yep, exactly. And you're going to see that you'll see some kids that didn't make their teams, and this is where they're trying to get better so they can make their team next year. So that's kind of that'll be an interesting thing to see as you go through the summer and spring.
And I think we saw a lot of that too. Every year, my son started playing select baseball at 8, and every year it seemed 8 years, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's always a kid or two that came along that played rec and had never played select baseball and just fit right in.
Yeah, and there's definitely some of those. I know some parents don't believe in spending the money, and they feel like their kids are athletes and they're going to make it. And God love them. I know, I didn't feel like my kid was one of those athletes. He's dragging a little bit of a wagon when he runs, and so he's not the fastest kid and not the strongest kid, and doesn't hit bombs. So we put him in select ball to make sure that he made his high school team. So he was fundamentally sound and had a good baseball IQ going into high school tryouts. And so, when my wife and I decided to go that route, that's what it was for. It wasn't for winning rings or being on a majors team. It was really about getting him prepared to play high school baseball.
And it sounds exactly like my son too. Like, he's not the fastest kid, he's not the strongest kid, but he does work really hard.
Yeah.
And like I said 2 weeks ago, my goal for my son has always been to play high school baseball and then go to college and either play college baseball or join an intramural softball team, go out there, drop bombs in front of the sororities and have a good time.
Right.
That's what all of this is about, is teaching your kid to be part of something. Yeah. Right. And my mom had always said, no matter what your kid does, you have to make sure they're part of something, be it Boy Scouts, baseball, basketball, football, chess club, Dungeons and Dragons, something, right?
Yeah, I have a 7-year-old that can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so we're gonna put him in jiu-jitsu. I told him, I said, being on YouTube all day is not gonna get it done. We gotta go get something active to do. You're getting your butt whipped because you're the least athletic kid in the house. So let's go train you up and do something active, but also teach them how to be a part of a team and do those things like that. So
it's kind of funny you mentioned that too. Like, you have the older kid that's in college, a middle-aged kid, and you have a newborn as well. So me and you are both in our mid-40s, and I have a 10-month-old daughter, and you have
a 5-month-old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Look at us starting over. Now we're talking youth baseball, and I'm gonna probably be talking youth softball in 14 years, and we probably won't even have podcasts. Then it'll be something different.
Yeah, it'll be something different for sure.
So let's get back to when to know that a kid's ready for select baseball and to move them out of rec, right?
Yeah.
It happens at all different times. There's all different kinds of thought processes to it. I think the easiest indicator, from what I could tell at 7, 8 years old, was the kids that were continuously making the all-star teams.
Yeah.
Generally a little bit further ahead of the other kids.
Yeah, and you can typically tell the ones that are ready for it at that age when they're coming up on ground balls and making throws that are catchable, making good contact with a ball, have a little bit of an IQ, like they know which way to start out towards first, when to hold up on a base when a coach tells them to. Just those little key indicators that they're a little bit ahead of the other kids in their grade, right, or their age.
Yeah, and I also think, like, if your kid isn't necessarily there, that doesn't mean there isn't a select team out there for your kid.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, if you want your kid to get out there and play a lot, there's teams that are definitely structured for that. And I think that's what's great about it. Like, people always say, oh, it's watered down. That's a good thing that it's watered down from a certain aspect of it too, because that way these kids get to play a lot more baseball. I was thinking about it today, actually, on the drive in. and about like rings and trophies and all this stuff. And I have a trophy from 1986, a participation trophy in soccer,
Really?
right?
From 86?
From 86, because everyone always
Was
says,
it a YMCA deal?
well, everyone always says that, oh, they didn't do that when we were growing up, but I think they did. I just don't think we really care about a participation trophy later in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know that I have any. I'm an 80s baby, so I don't know that I have any of those. And
I have one, and it's just
Yeah.
like this little thing, and I don't know why I've even kept it.
yeah.
But they did that stuff back when I was growing up, and probably as you as well. And I think these kids going to these tournaments and winning these rings and having fun with their buddies is something they're not going to forget.
No, and for a lot of kids, they're not going to even play high school baseball. So what they do between 6 and 14 is what they're going to carry into the rest of their life. Right?
That's my point about select
Yeah.
baseball. I think and even those kids that do make high school, how many of them are actually going to win?
Well, and how many of them are going to finish all 4 years? I mean, you look at any sport and there's, X amount of kids that come out. For baseball, there's probably 60 kids that come out, 20 make the team. And by the time they're seniors, there's maybe 10 kids that finished, that whether they transferred or stopped playing or got kicked off the team or whatever, right? But there's only 10 that finished playing. Football, the numbers are even bigger, right? I started my freshman class in college with 200 kids and 14 finished. So,
yeah.
I mean,
and that's what I'm saying too,
Yeah.
is like those winning those rings and having that camaraderie with your friends when you're growing up, playing the select baseball and going to these tournaments is something new to kids. And I also think that it's something that they're not going to forget. It's something they're going to carry on in life. And like we're talking about winning, when you get to high school, your team's probably not going to win. You're not
Yeah.
going to probably win state, because how many teams do that? One.
Yeah.
So that winning mentality that you're building in these kids to win the little $3 ring, I think is going to go a long way later in life.
For sure. And and let's be honest, they work their butts off. And it doesn't matter what level of select baseball you're playing. You're practicing 2 days a week. You're probably taking some lessons. It's cool that they have an opportunity to win one. And when they do, man, the smiles on their faces, of course I run tournaments. And so when we hand out those rings to kids that have never gotten them and they're 12 years old, the smile on their face is absolutely priceless. And it drives home, why we're out there doing what we're doing. Of course, it's how I make my living, but too, we're giving kids an opportunity to play baseball.
100%. And I think like them putting their hands on the little plate with their rings, like the rings, like especially when they're like 8 years old, are as big as their hand.
Yeah.
I mean, they wear them around their neck. I remember the first tournament, my team won. They were like 8 or 9 years old. I don't even remember. And they won dog tags. And the kids were screaming, rings, 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 rings.
And they got dog tags.
They got dog tags.
Oh, were they crushed or
they were a little crushed?
Were they?
Yeah, they were a little bit.
A little bit of ice cream probably solved that.
Yeah, like you said, like we talked about that earlier. 5 minutes after the tournament, these kids are more excited to be at like Chili's,
right,
or
hanging
Dairy Queen, just hanging out with their friends till 10:30 at night.
Well, man, let's dive into like what actually the process is.
Okay.
I on my Facebook page probably once a month. Because of the name of our organization, I'll get a message, hey, how can I find a team?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, I don't run teams, but you need to go on the baseball groups and just say, hey, such and such, my kid's 8, plays short, looking for a team. And you'll get bombarded with people telling you to come do a tryout.
100%. And then going into that too, there's 2 different ways you can look at that, right? You have your big organizations, right, that have all the facilities, and then you have like the independent teams that are out there, probably a little bit cheaper, not always, but generally a little bit cheaper. And it kind of depends what the parent and the kid is looking for, what they want.
Yeah, and I would say that like your bigger organizations have coaches that are not dads, and then like you said, the smaller, more independent teams where it's just a one-off or maybe 2 teams are coached by dads, and there's nothing wrong with that. I coached my son until it became a problem in our relationship where, all kids are different. My oldest couldn't handle dad being his coach. My youngest could handle it. So I coached my youngest up until junior high. I had to give up my oldest at 8 years old. So, and there's some dads that can coach their kid and keep a good relationship. For my oldest kid, we were banging heads, and I said, okay, I'm his dad. I'm not his coach. I need to let someone else coach him, and I can be his dad. So, and that was what was best for him at the time. So it was hard because I wanted to coach him, through 14, but we just oil and water. I just put it like that.
And me and my son have a little bit of that too. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to turn off the dad. It's hard to turn off the son.
Yeah.
Like they want to please you. Some of these kids want to please their dad more than anything.
Yep.
And it becomes an issue.
Yeah. And some kids you can get on to and some kids you can't. I mean, some kids do not respond well to negativity, and then other kids thrive on it. Like they want the criticism. They want you to tell them how to fix it.
Hey, let me chime in there, guys. What do y'all think about the kids that turn around after a strikeout or an error at second base and look at their parents?
Yeah, that's not good. It's not good because if you're going to pay all that money, let the coach your kid. Your kid shouldn't be looking for validation from you. It's a game of errors. They're going to make mistakes and they're going to strike out and they're going to miss ground balls and fly balls and make bad throws. We should never be looking at mom and dad for approval. It should just be, hey, so what? Who cares? Move on to the next.
And that's something I've struggled with too. I'll be honest with you too. Like sometimes I was in my son's ear too much.
Yeah.
And that's something I've tried to really step away from. And even this past weekend, I didn't even say anything to him at all. Really, I said, "Hey, let's go, stud."
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah. When my kid first started, it was tough for me. I'll be honest, I got kicked out of one game. But it was a rules issue. It wasn't that I was yelling at, I wasn't being a jackass. The ball hit the umpire and they put the kid back in the box. I lost my mind because there's no redos in baseball. It's a dead ball. Everybody moves forward one base. We should know that, right? But they put him back in the box. Kid hits a double. We lose the game, so I lose my mind. And I say lose my mind. I lost my cool because one of the other coaches was talking at us because our parents were complaining. And so then I stepped in and was like, you guys won because of a bad call. Let's, and then it kind of went back and forth. Anyways, I think kids should never look for approval during the game. And I think parents that ride their kids during a game, you're setting yourself up for a disappointment, because that kid should just be enjoying playing the game that he loves, not worried about whether you're going to be yelling at him or not.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I know a lot of people have struggled with that. It's something that you either grow out of or you don't.
Yeah.
And back to like looking for teams. Like a lot of times you see on these baseball pages that you had mentioned, it's the same organization asking for kids not even just every single season. It's almost like it's every week.
Well, and let's be honest, it's a business.
Yeah, that's what
they have
don't understand.
A group of 8 kids that are committed, and they're missing that one kid. So each week they're looking for a pickup player.
It's always a middle infielder, a pitcher, or a catcher.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's never a right fielder.
Yeah. Hey, somebody that can't hit, strikes out a lot, and can play right field, and you never see that on there.
That's right.
So
yeah, that process of finding a team is the best way to do it. At least in here in North Texas, is find a baseball group. There's so many of them, and all the coaches that have organizations are in them. If you post on there, hey, I got an 8-year-old, pitches right, bats right, can play anywhere, you'll get bombarded. Even if your kid can't play anywhere, that's what I would put, because then you're going to hit 47 tryouts in 10 minutes.
Yeah, and my advice to parents too, and the kids, is go to more than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of places, a lot of organizations are going to offer you. They're going to say they have a team for you no matter what.
Right.
Go out, find out what's best for your kid. Find out what you're looking for. Have a plan of what you're looking for when you go. Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
If you feel like put off, find someone else.
And there's several things that people look for. I know for me, when we looked for teams, it was about, can we find a coach that's going to develop our kid and make our kid better? But there are parents that are looking for teams that win, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can walk into any facility, and if they got 1,000 banners, that they have probably won at every age level and every division, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to put your kid on a team that wins.
No,
you just need to understand that if you're on a team that wins, they may not see the field as much if they're not where they need to be.
And you may also be one of the kids that's not going to be there next year.
Right. Yeah.
No matter how much money you paid and
sure.
how expensive the socks were.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. What do you think? What do you think are some of the things that parents should avoid when looking for a select team?
So that's tough, right? And I think like you have to know what kind of coach you want. Like you went back to some kids need to be ridden hard.
Yep.
My son needs to be ridden hard. Other kids don't and can't handle it. So if you see a coach that's you can tell that you can usually tell the coach that are gonna ride somebody hard,
Yeah.
and you see him riding someone hard, and you know your kid can't handle it. But Timmy's best friends on that team, I'd probably stay away from that team and find something that's more beneficial to you and your family.
Yeah. And you know, early on for us, my wife and I we wouldn't interview parents, but we would watch other parents because that has an effect on your kid as well. Because what you are as a parent, your kid is, right?
Yep.
If you're a jerk, your kid's probably a jerk, right? If you're nice, your kid's probably nice.
If you're somewhere in the middle like me, you're probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. So we would watch other parents as well, and if we got a bad vibe from parents, you know, we would finish the season because we don't believe in just quitting and moving on in the middle of the season. But we would probably find a different team the next year because I don't want to be sitting there next to someone that doesn't know the rules and is yelling at the umpire in every play. That's just as much as a turnoff as having a bad coach.
Yeah. And I think what I personally looked for my son, and we didn't change teams very often.
Yeah.
Just because we were on the same team from basically 8 to 12, and then the same team from 12 to 14. And what I was kind of looking for is I think if you're on a select baseball team and you're not majors, you should be playing about 500 baseball. That was kind of my thing. Like if we're winning half of the games and we're competitive, we're right where we need to be.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going 17-2 in AAA, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Like let's move up. And why would you want your kid on that team?
Yeah.
And I guess maybe there's some philosophy to the winning thing. I don't know.
Let me ask you, Matt. Now, what if you're a winning team, but you've been together since 9U? How would you justify that? What would y'all say about that?
What do you mean a winning team? Like if you're 17-2 and you're playing, let's say 12U AA?
Sure. Or let's go even higher, AAA or majors.
So if you majors, you're right where you need to be, right? You're playing the best competition that's out there, unless you're traveling. A lot of teams can't travel every single weekend, right? But if you're 17-2 or 16-4 in AA or AAA, and you've went up to the AAA or the majors and you struggled a little bit, there's nothing wrong with struggling.
No, there's not. And excuse me, sometimes there's really good AA teams and really good AAA teams that get slaughtered when they move up.
Especially that first tournament, and they go right back down to AA. And why not take your lumps at AAA and just see what happens? I guarantee you're going to win more and you're going to get better.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about competition is you want to push your kids to get better. You don't want them, but again, I will say it's a business. It always goes back to that, unfortunately. And coaches are not going to take a whipping because the good players, the parents expect to win. And if they're not winning, they're going to take their kids somewhere else. So there's such a fine line between running a business and doing what's best for the kids and trying to stay competitive and hold your team together. Right.
And I think like when you're talking about like what you're looking for in a team too, a lot of times those coaches don't have a lot of time to necessarily help on the personal or the singular development of a kid in a 2-hour practice.
No.
So a lot of kids are going to have to get lessons on the outside to work on the little things that they need to work on.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bigger organizations offer that stuff too. You get a discount. Let's talk about select baseball from a tournament director's point of view. And I don't know if this will make you uncomfortable or not, because we don't really discuss much before we go online anyway. But you always hear like, oh, we'll bump them to majors or AAA. I very rarely ever see a team get bumped. Teams can be 17-3 and they never move up, and they still continue to play the same level of tournaments. Why is that? And is there a process?
So there's metrics to it.
Okay.
Each sanctioning body has their own metrics,
but no one knows what those metrics are.
Right.
So that's kind of like
and here's why. It's hard to, let's say you're the state director for Perfect Game, NCS, USSSA, whatever.
Okay.
You're responsible for bumping teams. And I'll tell you, a lot of times you don't have time to go through 2,100 teams and figure out who needs to be bumped and who doesn't.
So is there a metric to it, or
There's
is
a-
there just
so-
time?
So there are metrics to it, but a lot of times you don't look at it until someone says, "Hey, this team probably should be a AAA." Like another coach is going to call you and say, "Hey, can you look at this team? Like they're really putting it to other teams. Can you just take a look at them and see?" And you'll look at them, and then that's when you apply your metrics, and you're like, "Okay, well, their win percentage is where it needs to be. Their run differential is where it needs to be. They probably need to be bumped." But you could have a team that's 17-3 and their run differential is 1, and
Yeah.
they're just a really good Double-A team. They belong in Double-A.
The Minnesota Vikings did
Yeah.
that last.
So, and then on the other hand, if you have a team that's 17-3 and their run differential's 10, probably need to bump them. They're kicking the crap out of everybody. So it really just goes back to one, the policing comes from the coaches. They'll call you and say, "Hey, can you take a look at this team?"
So the metric is mostly the coaches then.
Well, the metric is the numbers that we look at to bump them.
Yeah.
But like I said, when you got 2,100 teams or 3,000 teams that you're responsible for in your database, you couldn't staff enough people to go through that every Monday and look and see who needs to be bumped. It's just not enough time in the week to get it done.
And I mean, it's tough too because
Yeah.
those people might be signed up for 4 different tournaments. So
just like rosters, we wait for people to tell us, "Hey, this doesn't look right. Can you take a look?" And we take a look. Okay, yeah, you're right. They need to be bumped.
and that's the thing with Premier Prospects too, is like you guys don't disqualify a team for ineligible player on a roster. The player's just removed. Is that correct?
I do not. Yeah, it's a personal preference, and because I'm out there for we want to be out there for the kids. I can't justify pulling 9 kids off the field that didn't have anything to do with cheating, and they worked their butt off that weekend to get there. So my rule is, in my tournaments, illegal players are taken off the field, coaches ejected, and we keep playing.
I love that.
Hey, so I got a question from Abel that's watching the stream off of YouTube. So
What's up, Abel?
the
That's my guy right there. He breaks in gloves down there in Dallas too. Does a great job. I'll shout out his little spot later.
Hey, I keep seeing college coaches and ex-pros posting that U.S. travel ball is ineffective due to lack of actual development and too many tourneys. More and more are recommending the Dominican model. What do y'all think?
What is the Dominican model? Just practice.
Yeah.
that
Hey,
is-
yeah, that's probably I don't know necessarily know the Dominican protocol on that, but I think we have so many different sports here and we have so many different athletes playing so many different sports. It's not just necessarily baseball or soccer. I don't know what the Dominican's top 2 sports are, but here there's so many different avenues for kids. I like Abel, I'll look into that, and how about we come back to that question? We'll do some research on it, and we can go do it next week.
I think I have a simple answer. What we do is parent driven. Parents want their kid on the field, and they want to see them compete, and they want to see them win. And it's not. This is not an absolute, but the majority is because they want to share on socials that their baby is an athlete and they're doing great things, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, everybody wants to celebrate their kid, but a lot of this is parent driven, and the parents drive what we do. The parents drive what I do, because parents go to coaches and say, "This is what we want," right? They're the customer. Then the coach goes and finds it. So
would drills.
Hey, who won the World Baseball Classic, or what 2 teams were in the World Baseball Classic final,
wasn't it Puerto Rico and the United States?
or was it United States and Japan?
I can't remember.
Wasn't it Otani versus Trout?
It might have been, yeah.
So we might be doing something right.
Might be.
Well, so let me ask you, when you said it's parent driven, what is theirs? Is theirs more I got to get out the country driven? How would you? It's a touchy topic, but I mean that's kind of where we're going to.
I wouldn't say get out of the country, but when you're in a country that is mostly impoverished,
Mhm,
sports is your way out of that, right?
exactly.
And so you can't playing for a ring does them no good. They're looking to go to MLB, right? So our parents and kids aren't. You can ask them, "Do you want to play MLB?" But that's not realistic, right? Because they're not gonna not go to school, because you have to go to school here, right?
Right.
they're not going to spend 8 hours a day doing baseball, because here, if you do that, your parents go to jail.
And I don't necessarily know if that's the process there or not. What I'm saying is I think we should do some research on it, because I think that'd be something to come back to. I don't know if other countries like look for kids and then take them to a developmental center for that sport. Like, I don't know if that's how it's done.
Well, certainly, in some of the places where it's more of a dictatorship, like Russia, China.
Yes,
absolutely, they pull their best athletes and put them into a training,
But that's what I'm saying.
program.
I don't know how the rest of the world works.
Yeah.
I know here we do have USA baseball for some of the kids, and I don't know how that would stack up to a Dominican team. I mean, like we talked about the Little League World Series 2 weeks ago, and you see like I said, that kid from Taipei, Chinese Taipei, was throwing 83 miles an hour at 12 years old. That's nasty. But I don't know what their process of finding the kids are there either. So maybe we do some research. We'll come back to that, Abel, next week, and we can talk about it. I mean, Abel, if you ever want to come on and you could talk to us about it, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to bring Chabby on. I don't know if you guys know Chabby with Furia, but he's from Puerto Rico, and I know he would love to sit and talk Puerto Rico baseball. So maybe I'll reach out to him. Maybe we get him on the show.
Like I said, I know Abel's son is playing baseball in high school right now. His older son is in college, and he's actually breaking in gloves for it's called Bullhide Baseball, and Bullhide break-in, and he's breaking in gloves from lowest level all the way up to the major leagues.
Yeah,
people are sending him gloves, and
that's
so
awesome.
he loves baseball too. So I think we should have him on too. Abel, you're invited.
Yeah, for sure. I would absolutely love to talk to Abel, for sure.
Cool.
So let's I don't think we have much time left, but let's dig into some of the things parents should be aware of when picking a travel team or a select team, however you want to say it.
So let's start with cost.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes parents have limited funds, some parents don't. And that's another thing that you're going to have to look at. And make sure that you're asking those questions. Do I have to pay for a uniform? What does this cover? Do I get cage time? Where are practices at? Does this cover practice?
Yeah.
What team am I on? Because there are some teams out there that will take your money and tell you, hey, we're going to put you on the team. You don't know what team you're on until after you sign the paperwork. You've given them anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000. And then you find out you have to buy jerseys.
Yeah. I will say the cost is roughly the same no matter how you do it. But there are some different models out there. I know some organizations ask for the money up front. Some will do payment plans. Some will do like a low monthly cost and then charge you per the tournament you play in, charge you for a uniform. So there's some different, there's definitely different options. And I would definitely ask that question. Hey, what's this look like payment wise? How much are we talking? Can I break it up? Me personally, I never signed a contract with my kid because if the coach left or it didn't work out, I'm not going to be tied to, owing an organization a certain amount of money. I just never signed one. I said, I'm good for it. I'll pay you as you need me to pay it, but I'm not paying it all up front because you just never know what's going to happen with these teams. Kids leave, coaches leave, whatever, right? So
yeah, because my son played on an independent team all the way up till this spring.
Yeah.
So this spring was the first time that we had joined an organization. And before that, we were with independent teams. And like I said, we were pretty competitive. We went 500, won some rings. We had practices outdoors. We didn't have cages,
right?
Which, I mean, that limits it a little bit. But if you have good coaching and you have a good structure in place, I think you can do a lot of good things. And the teams that I was on for my son, I think did that.
Yeah.
The team that we played against a lot was the Texas Scrappers. They were a year younger than us. And they've been together since they were 7. The majority of that team has been together, low cost, and they're a majors team. They win all the time, and they're doing something right. And then you see some of these other teams that do spend a lot of money, and they're doing something right too. Because, like you said, you walk into their facility and they got banners all over the place.
Right. Yeah, it really just comes down to what's good for you, and ask questions, look around. I always tell everybody, keep your head on a shoulder. I'm sorry, not a shoulder. Keep your head on a swivel, which just means pay attention, right? And then, one with my kids, and pardon me for what I'm fixing to say here, but I always tell my kids, lose your hat, lose your ass, and that just means keep up with your stuff. And so I think that's good for adults too, right? You tell adults, pay attention to what we're doing, look around, ask questions, make sure you know the answers, don't just assume. And you should be able to find a good team that's a good fit for your kid.
For sure. And being in it, you know what teams that you can go to, you know what teams that you want to be on, you know what teams that you think the coaching's good. But from somebody on the outside, like you said, ask questions, talk to people at tournaments, check out their Facebook page, check out those pages on Facebook, because you'll see all kinds of comments. Type in the organization and then see what people are saying about it.
Yeah.
Some people are gonna be rude and say things that aren't true. 20 people aren't going to say 20 things that aren't true.
Right.
And if there's 20 people that are saying great things about it, it's probably a really good organization.
Yep. Yeah, and just pay attention to what people say about people to stay away from. I never try to judge people based off what other people say, but if 10 people tell me, "Oh, look out for that dude," my guard's going to be up, and I'm going to be cautious about how I deal with you.
Yeah, because like you said, it's a business, right?
Yeah.
These people are in sales.
Yep.
So if 10 people are saying something bad about him or about her, whoever it is, they can put on a good show and make it look good and sell you something.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you're out $2,500 or $4,000 or $1,500 or whatever it is, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Right. Got a question?
Oh no, just read some of the comments.
Oh, okay.
What are some of the comments?
What do we got?
Jax Ranger, $1 billion industry. See for yourself. Got to see for yourself. Not
Yeah.
for sure.
Well,
I think his son plays for the Fort Worth Lobos, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
and he's right. See for yourself. Go find out. You don't need to bring your kid to the tryout.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can go to the tryout, sit there and watch, or go to a tournament, find out when that team's playing, and just sit back and watch.
Yep.
I mean, half these teams are on Game Changer with live video
Yep.
or video that's on there. You can go in and look and see if the coach is running down the baseline trying to fight the umpire. You could ask parents. Like
Yep.
you can
talk
tell,
to
like
parents.
if there's like 3 kids on the team that never play.
Yeah.
I mean, it is select baseball. I get that you have to earn your time, but if your kid's never playing, that's probably not the right team for you.
Right.
I mean, you have
And-
to be cognizant of that. Like you have to make decisions based on what's best for your child.
And I know I might catch some crap for this because I do know a lot of coaches and it's all about, trust the process. And hey, there's nobody that believes trust the process bigger than me. But at the end of the day, you have a short window to play baseball. And if you're not on the field, you're not getting better.
And here's the deal. Coach, trust the process. You're his coach. If you're telling them to trust the process and the kid's not playing, how is that not falling back on you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I only had one team that we left because my son wasn't playing. And it wasn't that he wasn't playing is why we left. They brought in kids that didn't start the season with us and were only there for a weekend here and there. And we had 3 kids riding the bench that were there every week. And I said, well, if I'm going to pay this kind of money to bring in pickup players to play where we got 3 kids that are sitting, we're going to go find a team where we're going to actually be on the field and we're going to get our money's worth.
100%. And like you always hear, I'm here for development. I'm here for development. If we're looking at your team as an organization and you're not developing the bottom talent and all you're doing is bringing in other talent, is that development or is that just recruiting?
Yeah, exactly. It's at that point, for me, it was about winning, and I'm not there for winning. And I'll defend this until, the end of time. You cannot get better if you do not play. And that's just all there is to it. Now, if you're not at a high school level or professional level, you need playing time in order to get better. And, when you get to high school, that's where the cream rises to the top and that coach's job is on the line and he needs to win. But when you're in youth, you don't need to win. There's no drive to win other than just the pat on the back or the chest banging that goes on with winning.
And like you said, like get him to high school, and every team needs a cheerleader and every team needs somebody that's motivating somebody. And if your kid's that, and that's what your kid wants to do, embrace that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, comment from Robert Baker from Facebook. Shouldn't have to sign a contract to stay on a team. The team needs to make the kids and parents want to stay, develop over rings.
So let's shout out to Robert. He's the owner of Baker Bats. They have they do incredible wood bats. We give those away once a year in our wood bat tournament. He's a good dude, knows a lot of baseball. They got some professionals they're signed with, and then they've recently started running teams. So, yeah, Robert, I agree with you. I never signed a contract. I don't know why anybody would do that just because of the unknowns.
And I don't necessarily know what contract. When I say contract, all I was talking about is I paid my fee to be on the team. we've never signed a contract saying, hey, we're only going to play with this team or anything.
Well, the contract basically ties your money to a year's, like, if you're doing payments, that contract ties your debit card to them for a year so they can run your card.
Yeah.
All right, this will be the last little comment off of Facebook from, I believe it's King Devaz, DVAZ.
Yeah.
He's like, oh snap,
he's playing with us this
what
weekend.
the heck is this? Why am I not on this?
Hey, I don't know who you are, King, but you're welcome on, man.
He's a coach with TBT baseball.
Yeah,
up in the Frisco area. So
perfect.
Yeah, love to have him on. Hey guys, we're out of time here. Hey, thanks for the comments. If you liked and shared, we love it. Keep it going. We'll be back next week. Tune in around 7:00 next Tuesday. We'll go live and we'll have another topic.
Hey, appreciate it. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you out.
No, I'm Mike. This is Matt. And
we appreciate it. Have a great week, everybody. Stay positive and keep crushing baseballs.
See you on the diamond.